Hello folks, it's BattTube here, and today I have a Samsung, I believe, a Samsung WB250F that's, I want to make USB powered. The reason being is because I found this in a dump bin, and I really don't want to buy a battery for it when I really don't have to. I just plan on using this as a secondary camera, maybe as a scope camera, so you guys can see what's going on the oscilloscope. So a new battery for this is actually fairly cheap on Amazon, and I could do that, but even still, even if I had a battery, I do prefer to run something like this off of USB powered when it's only being used in a single place its whole life, which is going to be basically right there, somewhere over there on the desk. So you guys will be able to see the oscilloscope screen, so I don't have to do any funky mumbo jumbo, and maybe I could overlay it in the bottom corner, something like that. So because it's not going to be moving, and because I don't want to have to charge the battery in between footage, USB just seems like the best bet. But I'm not going to be removing the battery functionality. I will probably run this USB port out the side. For now it's just going to be a USB cable. Where is it? For now I am just going to be using this USB cable, but in the future I'm probably going to put a USB port maybe sticking out of the side of it. As you can see, there is actually a USB input, which we might actually be able to use. I may steal the power leads coming off of this and send it right to the battery, as long as it is not conflicting with anything else inside. So we may just do that. But I do have this cable just in case that won't work, and if it won't work, we'll just run this out of the side. As currently I don't actually have a collection of the female PCB based micro USB connectors or anything like that. I do have to get myself some of those for this type of job. So for the screwdriver, I'm using a Phillips number 0, 65mm. Well, that's the length rather, so it's a number 0 Phillips. Now I really don't know which ones I should be taking out first. I'm just going to be going around taking out all the screws. Now these ones, if any screws didn't have to come out these ones, as there may just be holding in anyway, but these are the more important ones. Because these screws are so tiny, be careful don't overwork them, and once you strip them, they're fucked. And you really don't have to do any damage to the air casing. It's nice and easy, and if you're number 0 Phillips, doesn't work, you'll find another number 0 Phillips, because you have size that the tolerance in the manufacturing tolerance actually comes into that. So a nice high quality number 0 Phillips will be great. This camera is actually pretty good. I'm not quite sure. Full HD it says on the front, so that's probably what it's going to be capped at is 1080p, but it does offer Wi-Fi, so that's cool. And it does look like we can get the start of something off, but it looks like we're going to break it if we continue it. So let's see if there's something we are missing. Doesn't look like it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to start with the top here. Now there's nothing under the flash, or is there? Because that would be a good place to hide a screw, would be right under the flash. Doesn't look like it though. So what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna get a razor blade to help us out. I wouldn't typically be using a razor blade. You could use a plastic spudge or something if you want. But because, like I said, I'm not too worried about the cosmetics of this, I'll use a razor blade over a plastic spudger, just for the rigidity. Alright, there we go. It does look like it was already broken, just in this bottom corner, because I do not think I did that. Alright, what do we got going on here? We got the display, so I'm just having a little bit of a peek around, see what we can get at from here. This display is on a flat flex, so I do not want to fuck with that and destroy that. We gotta somehow get this front piece off. It seems like the course of action that is required here. Now, but it seems like there's something I'm missing. These things, they fit so much into such a small size that I could very well be missing a screw. I really don't want to have to go resort to another YouTube tutorial, but I could if I needed to. There is a small screw right there. Let's see what that does. Alright, so that screw is coming out just fine. This may or may not help get us further. I really do not know what I'm doing. But this is the fun part of it, right? It's the learning experience. So if I pull this back, that is the touch buttons. And we can gracefully pull that out of the FPC connector. That looks fine. So we are going to put the buttons to the side. Alright. What else do we got here? We have other flat flexes for the display. So if we take the display now, this might be the next course of action, depending. As you can see, when we flip it over right here, there's a nice foam bumper, rubber bumper. We're going to carefully pull that off. You don't necessarily have to, but it's going to make the next job a little bit easier. Now, there is going to be a little flip up. I'm just going to zoom in a bit, just so you guys can see a bit better now that we're down in the nitty-gritties. Alright, so I got you guys a little bit closer, and we may as well push the screws and shit to the side so they don't get knocked off. And the one silver screw, that's kind of easy, it came from the inside. So the next is this little plastic clip in the back that you guys didn't just see. So see this black clip? Typically it is pushed down. So let me push it forward to show you. Typically it is pushed forward and down to lock the ribbon. So just like that. So typically you can see the pins through there like that, and all you gotta do is take something fine down there and pop it up just like so. So this small connector right here should just pull out just like so. So now that we have these flat flexes out for the display, we can put that aside. Hopefully that is not fucked. It does not look like it. Alright, so this is probably what we needed to see. There is a couple more screws holding this silver shield on. There's one right there, and there's one right there. That should be all we need to get this silver shield off and get a little bit closer. I'm just going to compare these screws to the other black ones to see if they're of different size. And they are slightly. So I am going to put them over to the right of the silver ones, just because these also came from the inside of the camera. And I should have enough of memory to remember, and if I don't, I could always look back at this footage. Now, I am being somewhat careful, obviously, on the inside, because although this camera was thrown out, I do not believe there's anything wrong with it. Now, I'm saying I do not believe because I've never actually powered it up, so I don't know. But I'm going to... oh, I missed a screw. Sorry, there's 3 screws on the inside. I was wondering why it was a little bit snug. Never pull too hard if you feel that it is in there a little bit more than it should be, because there's probably a good reason for that, such as a screw. So we have this metal shielding, probably some sort of maybe interference shielding or something. Plate right there, maybe just for structure. Alright, so here we are. So is this just gonna... there we go. Okay, so here's the USB port. So what we're looking for is on the opposite side of this PCB, which obviously is not the funnest. So we're going to start with this green tape. So this green tape is holding on the flat flex. So I'm just gonna get a razor blade under it, not touching the flat flex, just enough to stick it to the razor blade. Alright, so as normal, my normal camera overheated, which is the S21 Ultra. So that takes some time to let it cool off. As you can see, I did get those 2-piece green tape. I just took a razor blade from the connector side and just started to peel it up, then finished it off with my finger. So these flat flex connectors are both held in by the bands. So on this one, it's actually the back, it's the gray one, it gets pulled up. And on this one, it's the front black one, which gets pulled up. Now this one over here, it's another front black one that gets pulled up, and then we can start to pull those out. There's also this Wi-Fi antenna connector. You can pry that up with your fingernail typically. Well, that's the least intrusive. Alright, so let's start to get this board out. It does feel like there's something else holding it on. It's probably just the USB port. Most probably. Is there a way that I can slide out that plastic? No, it's just going to be a stubborn little bitch. There we go. Okay. So I didn't want to put too much tension on any of these cables. It sucks because they're all in different ways. So I'm going to start with this top one. Going to take a tiny flathead. Try and pull this out without ripping it. Let's hope I did not destroy that. Let's hope. I was a little bit aggressive. I'm gonna suggest that you don't be as aggressive as I was, and as careless as I was. But it's just very tough because of the way that they have this in here. Because there's two coming from this side and one coming from this side. You can't pull it this way, you can't pull it this way without putting bad stress on one of them. So let me just have a quick look at this and see if it's okay. Alright, so having a quick look at that, it appears to be okay, but only time will tell. So now we have what we need. This board. Alright, so there's two options that we can do. So, as I said before, we could just run the white USB cable off of the battery terminals, boom boom, the positive and negative, probably the far left and the far right, and then the other option would be to run two little bodge lines from the USB-C, the micro USB connector over to the battery lines. Now, if this was a single-sided board, as you can see, and if these were not surface mount components, if they were through-hole components, this would be a lot easier. But as you can see, those are tiny, tiny pins that don't go through. They're not through-hole, so that would be almost impossible. As you can see, with the battery connectors, although they are still small, we can quite easily solder on a bodge wire on those two to get USB power to this. Alright, so first let's try and determine the difference between these pins. We're first going to take a continuity tester and see if any of these pins are bonded. That's ground. Alright, so as you can see, we have our shield, ground right there, and we have some positives right there. So, typically it might be potentially a 2S battery that it's in here. I doubt it. I believe it's just a single S. So, we're just going to go ahead and connect on the opposite pins, far left and far right, and see if it turns on. Alright, so I've exposed a tiny bit of copper. Just put a little bit of flux on the end of those leads, and that should be enough. I shouldn't have to put any on those. Actually, fuck it, I may as well. I just don't want to end up with a bunch of flux on this board. That's not needed, but I don't want to end up with a shitty solder joint, so just put a tiny little touch on there. Tiny little touch. And let's get a little bit closer. Alright, so I brought you guys right in here so you guys can see. There's the two that we have to do. Oh, I got a little strand. Soldering iron should be hot. The tip is a little large for what I want, but should be okay because of the gap between the pins. Now, I'm just doing this a somewhat non-ideal way because I have flux on both the wire and the pad. And I'm putting the solder on the head of the iron before applying, just so I can use my other hand to hold the wire there. So I don't exactly know which one's going to be which. Actually, sorry, I do. Alright, so as you guys seen before, this is our ground, and this one's positive. So I just took the soldering iron, I put some solder on it already, and because there was already flux on these pins, I just dabbed it with the solder on the iron, and the flux was enough to provide a decent enough solder weld. I will fix it once I know for a fact this is going to work. This is a little bit of a test. So let's get these ribbon cables kind of back together and turn it on. Alright, so when I put it together, I'm not going to connect these two ribbons. I'm just going to connect the top one. Now that should be enough for us to see. As well as the display. Sorry. So as you can see, these wires are kind of sticking out too far past. So when we do correct it, we will make sure the wires do not interfere with this tiny PCB. It's hard to see right there. Alright, so what I just did, so I'm just kind of pushing this in as far as it'll go. I'm pushing the PCB kind of back on it, and then I'm going to take the locking ring and push it down. Well, the locking band, I guess, locking ring, locking band, locking strip, whatever you want to call it. Get this Wi-Fi antenna out of here, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to carefully bring over the display. We're going to plug it in. So I'm going to keep it upside down for now, kind of straighten out the bands so I don't have to fight with them. So it's really hard to do this. I know I'm kind of getting out of frame, but just kind of trying to hold it in the way that the ribbon likes the most. So whichever way the ribbon wants to go in, I've kind of just been putting it. Alright, so I've got the USB cable. Gonna bring over this USB block right here. Plug her in. Find the power button. And ta-da! Date and time set. Well then, okay. Okay, that's all I need to know. Let's unplug it. There we go. Alright, let's do it right now.
Approximately 10 hours later.
Alright, so I went ahead, grabbed a power bank, plugged it in with the USB. Moment of truth. Oh, I've seen the green light. Oh, power bank might. I'm not sure if this draws enough current to keep the power bank on. Okay, there it is. I'm not gonna bother with the time because it's gonna reset every time we unplug the USB. But that's no problem. As you can see, everything is working, including the zoom. I did put a memory card in it as well, so that works. The focus works. If you lightly press it, it'll focus. Full press, it'll work. Wi-Fi direct button works. And video recording works. Touch buttons work. That works. We can try touching in different parts of the screen. Works everywhere. Alright, menu works, back works, display works, timer works, down button works, whatever that is, some sort of object. Oh, like bokeh. I don't know what type of mode that is, but it can fuck off. Okay. Images, delete. Yeah, everything seems to work. Wi-Fi settings, some sort of smart modes or something. Best face, smart, blah blah blah. Program, smart auto, which is probably where it's gonna stay most of the time, because I'm just gonna be recording an oscilloscope. Let's see, you guys can kind of see it. Oh, you guys can see the oscilloscope. Yeah, so it's gonna be way up close recording that screen. So yeah, this is gonna work perfectly fine. Alright, glad this worked out. Don't need to get a battery for this. No need. If I do plan on using this for anything else, I may or may not get a battery. Who knows? But for me, right now, absolutely no need. Everything works. Let's shut it off. Alright, everything seals up. Unplug it. Jeez, that's fucking in there. Let's try it in this one. So when we turn it back on, the time's gonna be fucked up again. Maybe not. I guess there was still power in a capacitor. Who knows? Whatever. Alright guys, that worked out. If you guys liked the video, please leave a like and subscribe. You can basically make USB powered anything using the same concept. This is just some simple DIY purpose driven builds. Purely purpose driven. Nothing cosmetic about this. So if you guys enjoyed, please leave a like and subscribe. Thanks for watching. Peace out.